What? Did you guys, what? Chet? Really? That beautiful intro that I just gave? You had the mic muted the whole time? I feel like we almost need to restart the show. All right, guys, that's going to be it for today's show. Thank you for coming. Sorry about that. Well, I'll see you guys tomorrow. We're getting out of here. Thanks. Restart. Look on today's show, guys. On today's show, we're talking about Ironheart. Ironheart. Disney Plus. It's happening. And you guys missed all of the shout-outs as well. I assure you, we actually did shout every single person out that came in. And, Chet, do me a favor. Yeah, you know it. Get up out of your seat. Walk a little bit this way. Give me like 50 push-ups. And then get the hell out of the studio. You can't do 50 push-ups? Oh, my God. Just give me like 10 push-ups and get the fuck out of here. Yeah, I'll handle it. I'll handle it for the rest of the day. Uh-huh. No, you can't have any coffee to go. Out of here. That Taylor Lane Organic Coffee, official coffee of the morning streams here on the Den of Nerds. Go to taylorlane.com and use code NERDS10 at checkout for 10% off. You can't have any of that, Chet. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the craziest Thursday show I think we've ever started. It's never been this bad at the beginning. But hey, look, we've got a lot of cool stuff to get into today, man. I want to talk about Ironheart. I want to talk about Disney Plus. Adam from Fanjecture is joining the program. You probably did not hear me say that, but yes, Adam from Fanjecture will be joining the show. And we will be talking about the industry side of Disney Plus, man. The streaming wars have begun. And I want to know, do we think Disney's got it under control? Is Disney going to walk away with the W from the streaming wars or not? I don't know. We'll check it out. But yeah, let's get into the news. I'll take the. Oh, Will Morgan, you're crazy. That's a good conspiracy theory, though. That's a good conspiracy theory, but you're crazy, man. There's no way that's true. You know, no way that's true. But there is some news. We got to talk about it. Let's roll it. It's the craziest news of the day. Oh, this news is crazy. Dun, 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 dun. According to the Cinema Spot, Ironheart, as a Disney Plus series, is coming to the MCU. I'm going to read right from the article here, and then we're going to talk a little bit about it, folks, okay? Exclusive! Marvel Studios and Disney Plus plotting Ironheart series to shoot in 2021. Exclusive Marvel Studios. Oh, wow. Oh, he said that again. I've learned that Ironheart, based on the character of the same name, is in active development at Disney Plus with a targeted shooting date sometime next year. With the delays, I imagine that will be towards the end of the year. Ironheart follows Riri Williams, a 15-year-old engineering genius attending Massachusetts Institution of Technology. Riri builds a suit based on Iron Man's armor and takes up the name of Ironheart. Ironheart is one word? Jeez, Chet. Unbelievable. On Marvel's Disney Plus slate are the announced Falcon and the Winter Soldier, WandaVision, Loki, Hawkeye, and various other keywords. No release date for Ironheart has been announced. Now, that in of itself is not necessarily, the best news. Or the best scoop, rather. You're like, well, first of all, the Cinema Spot, how reliable are they? This Thomas dude, who is he? What's going on? I don't know if I buy it. Well, Charles Murphy came forward yesterday to announce that, yes, indeed, that is true. We've been talking about this for a while. There were a lot of rumors that Ironheart was going to be developed for Disney Plus. Those rumors appear to be correct. And so I'm going to do a video later today on the main channel. The focus of this video is, will Marvel fans embrace Ironheart in the MCU? And we'll sort of talk about the different issues that will face this character. There's some baggage coming in. There's some drama. And there's already controversy with the character. There were plans to possibly make Tony Stark's daughter, Morgan, into Ironheart, an interesting way for that to work together. And some people were literally so upset that they literally spammed the Instagram account and the social medias of that young actress that plays Morgan Stark. So, nerds being nerds, perfectly reasonable, no tension, no hostility, a lot of coming to the table, battling it out in the realm of ideas and fire and brimstone! Get woke, go broke! Don't raise men, hashtag not my Marvel! These are the reasonable responses of Marvel fans and nerds everywhere that we have seen going on the internet. And so I ask you, good people of the Den of Nerds morning stream chat, how do you feel about Ironheart coming into the MCU? I want to know what you think. I might take some of the things that we talk about here into consideration when I do my video later. For my own part, I think that it's obviously there's an opportunity for Feige and the team over at Marvel Studios to do a much better job than what they did in the comic books. I've not read much Ironheart. What I have read of Ironheart, I didn't really like that much. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't really like that much. Wasn't that into it. Not that into it. But could they make this character much better in the MCU? I would say yes. I would definitely say yes. I just joined and all I hear is, this is not my Marvel. Nobody cares shit. Everybody does. Marvel does this all the time. Yeah, yeah. So that's an interesting point, right? Marvel is classically known for taking characters that did not have that much acclaim or were not that popular in the comic books and making them really popular. I mean, and that's something I thought of when we talked about the Ultimatum scoop, right? I was like, well, Ultimatum is literally like people hate that story. You know what I mean? Like big time. And yet, the MCU version of it would probably be amazing, just looking at the pedigree of what the MCU has done, right? And so I think that's fair to say that it's not so much. It doesn't necessarily matter that the character wasn't that popular in the comic books. That doesn't necessarily matter. I will say, however, though, that the thing with Ironheart, she has a different barrier to get over than, like, let's say, Phase 1 Iron Man or the Guardians of the Galaxy. You see, the Guardians of the Galaxy, although not an incredibly popular comic book, didn't have any baggage. It wasn't at the center of a huge controversy in comics or in the comics community. Riri Williams was. So, you know, and I'll get into some more of this in the main video on the channel today. The whole deal with me, man, is I think you guys know where I stand with a lot of this stuff. I'm not going to hand wave away the complaints from people that have had issue with that character. I'm not going to just say, oh, it's just those people over there, hand wave it away. You know what I mean? I saw somebody tweeting, and Trinity, you responded to this tweet. Maybe you know a little bit more about this, but somebody like tweeted like, oh, this Ironheart show is going to upset all the right people, and that's awesome. I personally find that attitude disgusting. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I can't wait. This is a win for my side, and it's going to piss off the people on that side. That, like, tribalism and groupthink is... I'm not a fan. I'm not a big fan of it. It's not my place to sort of try to educate people or make people, you know, be more accepting. That's not my place. But I just want to point out that that attitude and that type of shit is not my bag. So what I'm going to do in my video is try to take a reasonable approach to it. You know what I mean? Like, try to take a reasonable approach to it, sort of listen to the both sides of the community. It's like, on the one hand, I think that Riri Williams certainly has her fans. To say that there's not a single human being out there that read that book and liked it or that likes that character is absurd. That is absurd to say. Of course, she has her fans. On the other end of that, to say that all the people that didn't like Riri Williams or that had a problem with what Marvel Comics was doing during that time period of publication were all, you know, pick your ism, pick your label, I think that shit's just as ridiculous. So what we're going to do is what we always do, boys and girls. Split the defense. Give them a swim move. Split the defense. Can we get to the real shit, please? Swim move. Maybe a backwards swim move. You know, maybe one of these. Maybe like a double parting, like kind of one of these. Like, fuck you and fuck you. Okay. And then we're going to talk about the real news. So look forward to that video coming out later today. And then we've got a super chat coming in from Freddie P. Freddie, I love you. I appreciate the support. Amazing. Thank you so much. But it's tough when you super chat to go check your last question. You should have just put the question you wanted me to answer in the super chat. I would have had much easier access to it. Love you, Freddie. And now I'll scroll up just for you. Is Ironheart replacing Iron Lad on the Young Avengers? That's a good question, Freddie. Give you some props. That's a good question, possibly. I hope not, because Iron Lad has a specific tie-in to Kang the Conqueror, which also I think is the best of the stories for the Young Avengers, and I hope to be the crux of the Young Avengers show. So, good question. I appreciate the support. Thank you, my friend. Allow me to just take one more sip of this delicious organic coffee. Taylor Lane Coffee, the official coffee of the Den of Nerds morning streams. Go to taylorlane.com and use the code NERDS10 at checkout so that they know we sent you over there. And then we're going to bring Adam in and talk about Disney+. Wow. Wow. That tastes really good. Man, wish Chet was here to pause the music and shit. Oh wait, I think I can do it. How does that guy even have a job? You know what I mean? We pay him a quarter a day, but somehow a quarter a day still feels like too much. You know what I mean? But now let's bring in Adam from Fanjecture. Bringing you in. I'm bringing you in. Adam, what's going on, my friend? How are you?
Good. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm doing all right. It's yeah.
I gotta tell the chat though, while with your intro, I was able to hear everything, and guys, the crap he was talking about you all in the chat is unbelievable. I'm so like on my virgin years, I'm so glad you guys didn't hear all the stuff he was saying about you.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
it's funny how the universe works because, just a different approach where it's like a lot of like antagonizing my audience. And I felt like, today was the day to try that. It's just like a Thursday, quarantine, nothing really crazy going on in the world. Why not just take every name and just rip on them and shit on them? And then, it's funny, like the universe and the powers that be, maybe Cthulhu himself was like, nah, bro, and just, screwed that up. So, yeah,
Yeah.
appreciate you bringing that up, though.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, it's Chet's fault. It's fine.
Of course, it's
I hate
Chet's
that
fault,
guy.
man. Always Chet's fault. Before we get too far into the Disney Plus stuff, because I think we're gonna have such a good conversation here, man. Because just knowing a little bit about what you like to talk about and sort of the things that interest you, I think this will be sort of a good combo of Marvel stuff, but also industry stuff to talk about. But before we get in too deep into that, do you have any opinions on the Riri Williams thing?
I don't have a problem with it. I think it's cool. Look, at this point in my MCU fandom, I think Kevin Feige and the team over there has built up so much goodwill that I'm totally fine with whatever they want to throw at me. I'm gonna watch it, and I'm not like a blind like slave to MCU, but I've liked way more than I've disliked. So
Yeah.
I will give anything they have a shot for sure. So yeah, why not?
Why
Could be
not?
cool.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And I saw a super chat come in asking about what's the possibility. CGM show says it could be Rhodey's niece. I think that's really interesting. I think that's really cool. This
Yeah.
thought just popped into my head, and I want to get your take on this. And get ready for some spice, people. Get ready
Okay.
for some spice. Do you think that it's possible that Kevin Feige, maybe being progressively minded in his politics, let's just say, that he sees what Marvel has been doing, or perhaps just other studios and other examples of maybe the wrong way to introduce representation and some of these other things into pop culture? And do you think that it could be a thing where he wants to do this because he wants to prove that it can be done tastefully, tactfully, not piss off half the fan base, that you can have your cake and eat it too? Do you think that's possible at all? Could that in any way be his motivation?
I mean, I think he's done a good job so far of it, if I'm being honest. Look, I know I think with Black Panther, I think that was a home run for sure. And look, whether you like Brie Larson as a person, if you look at the movie itself, the movie didn't really do anything about representation itself. It just was the movie. At most, it was that the one scene where she's talking about smiling, which is a little meta, but that really has more to do with the Brie Larson personality than any sort of representation. So I don't know. I feel like Kevin Feige is the type of producer where he can have any progressive ideals he has, but he's a smart enough businessman and a smart enough creator to understand that if you're going to introduce any character, no matter what age, sex, race, that it has to be done well. And I think he's proven that. I mean, look, if you can introduce a talking raccoon, which in itself is its own race,
Yeah.
and like basically naturally, I think he could do that with humans. I'm really not worried. I think he's a master filmmaker, or master producer, and I think he can do it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a totally fair point. He's just so smart in the business minded sense. I just kind of like had this thought pop into my head because like Yeah, it just is an interesting move to be doing some of these characters, I guess. And I was trying to sort of figure out why. You know what I mean? Like I honestly can't imagine. This is just me personally. I honestly can't
Mhm.
imagine that he read those books and was like, "This character's dope." Like I just can't. Like from what I've read of her, the stories are not that great. You know what I mean? Like they're just not that great. It really feels like a Shelley. They just took Tony Stark and put him in a black girl's body essentially, and that
Okay.
was the character. You know. And I've heard some rumors. I don't know if they're true, but I've heard some rumors that even Bendis himself was sort of handicapped or handcuffed and not even allowed to do some of the things that he wanted to do with the character, which is pure speculation. But like, if I'm just trying to like figure out like why would he want to do this? All new, all different Marvel is like literally the most. It's the most controversial, not most widely accepted part of Marvel Comics. So it's like, why? Why would he want to do it? Do you know what I mean?
Uh, because I think that he has proven that he can take characters and storylines and take a shell of what it's supposed to be and turn it into something better.
Right.
We've had storylines, major comic storylines that are not exactly like the comics. So just by having a character, an on paper synopsis of what a character is, it doesn't mean that that's what it's going to be. He can
Right.
create anything he wants
Very
with
true.
it.
Yeah.
He's just pulling concepts, and we talked about what's the new one? What's the new rumor going around of the one that everyone hates? You just talked about it last week. The storyline.
Oh, Ultimatum.
Ultimatum, right? That's another example. If they end up doing Ultimatum, like you said, it's widely regarded as people not enjoying it,
Right.
but that doesn't mean what it's going to be. So, look, me and you can't sit here and convince people whether they think doing a younger female version of Iron Man is lazy or repetitive, or I don't think we're going to be able to change people's minds. And I'm not here to outset and change anyone's minds. I just know for me personally,
Yeah.
it doesn't bother me. I'm not bothered by it. I don't see it as a ripoff. I just see it as it's just another character who, look, is Rhodey a ripoff of Iron Man 2?
Yeah.
You know what I
Totally
mean?
fair. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a totally fair point. Yeah. I mean, and some of these ideas I'll sort of try to refine and put into the video I do later today. But yeah, I just wanted to ask you that. That literally just popped into my head. I thought it was interesting. But let's get into some Disney Plus stuff, man. So my first question for you is sort of going to frame the whole conversation. But I want to know, how much do you actually use Disney Plus, and how much value do you think is there for the streaming service currently?
Before I answer that, how is my audio? Because everyone's saying in the chat that my audio is sounding like crap.
It has like it has like a little crackle to it.
I can hardly hear you in the StreamYard, so I'm wondering if it's the StreamYard.
It could be the StreamYard. Let me see something here.
Do you want to open a new one and send it to me?
Yeah. We could do that. Okay, so first I can change this so you can hear me a little bit better. That should help that.
Nope, can't hear you. All gone.
Oh, awesome.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, that's a little bit better. How's your audio now? Give me a little taste.
All right, well, I'll give you the soothing sounds of my voice. Hello, chat.
It's a little crackly. Here, I'll reset it over there. Give me 1 second, guys. Normally Chet would take care of this, but somebody decided to send him home. Let's try this again. Let's give this another shot, shall we? Okay, so we'll get on in here. And Adam, you should still be there. Give me a little audio now. Do you not do you not hear me? Hmm. Technology, guys. Technology. Always. All right, give me a little audio now. How do you sound? Nothing? Can't hear me? Oh no.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Can you hear me? Here, I'm going to have to change my audio a little bit. The audio will sound a little bit different for you now, but maybe you can hear me. Wow, it's like even worse. Okay, let's awesome. Let's try let's try one more thing here. I might have to do a whole new. This is what I always talk about with live streaming. It's a wild game, guys, because things will go wrong. Things will go wrong. Also, what is going on in the chat? There was like some craziness going on in the chat. I wasn't able to totally pay attention to it, but sounded pretty wild. Are you guys behaving down there, or are you being bad? I am not so sure about what's going on. Let me try to get this to Adam here. It would be a shame if we weren't able to figure this out, because I want to dig in, man. I want to dig in. Oh man, what in God's name is going on? That is probably the same link, but okay, it looks like I got. Okay, well, we'll see. I apologize, folks. Technical difficulties. See if we can get Adam.
How's this now?
Hey, I think it's better. Technical difficulties.
How's this now?
I hear. Okay.
Better.
Yeah. I think it's better. I think
now
it's better,
I can't hear you in StreamYard, so if you can.
How about now? Can you hear me in StreamYard now? Okay.
Yes, perfect.
All right, cool. And then I'll go to solo layout so that we got you on there. Okay, so now we're okay. So now we're back. Question: how much do you use Disney Plus, and what value do you think Disney Plus has? Is it worth the price right now?
Okay, so I guess I'm going to be talking from the semi-boomer perspective a little bit. Disney Plus is on in my household every single day, but I have kids,
right.
So I think it has extreme value for families, 100%. I get the part if you are young, single, and if you're just kind of into the genre stuff. It right now it may not be, but I think for where it is, and we can get into I have numbers all day for you whenever you're ready for them.
Yeah.
But just to answer the initial question, I think it's got extreme value, and it's only going to go up.
Yeah, no, I think that's totally fair. I was thinking about this too. For families, I think it's probably like a godsend. You know what I mean? Like, honestly, even right now, I think it just has so many good things for kids and for families out there. I also think, like, just for me personally, like, there's still enough on there, like, whether or not it's the Gargoyle show or like the 90s X-Men, all the Star Wars stuff is in one place, even though I own all or most of that stuff anyways. So I think there's a lot of value there, but I gotta be honest, like on, those, when it's like, late at night or like you're just looking for something to watch, very rarely do I go to Disney Plus to put something on. Do you know what I mean? So
100%.
I think there's right now currently a sort of lack of content that will compel enough people to kind of keep going back to it. Now, let me just ask you this: do you worry at all that could become sort of ingrained in the branding, that Disney Plus will be considered, like, because it's such an interesting time for it right now? Do you think that Disney Plus will be looked at as sort of second tier streaming entertainment, and Yeah, speak. I guess just speak to that a little bit. Do you have any concerns from the branding side?
Um, that's a very good question. As of right now, to date, Disney Plus is the third largest streaming service. It's Netflix right now has 183 million subscribers worldwide.
Gotcha.
Amazon has 100 million. But I think there's a little asterisk when it comes to that because a lot of people get Prime Video by having Amazon Prime.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like almost an extra cost. Like
Yep.
so there is a tiny asterisk. And Disney comes in and they just announced numbers the other day. They're 54.5 million, which they've accomplished in 6 months. And they actually anticipated it taking about 5 years to get it.
Mm-hmm.
So they're exploding. Is it second tier? Maybe right now. It seems sort of like what Disney's doing with it is more of a distribution channel than a content channel. So I guess they're sort of going about it a different way. Yeah, Netflix is probably the go-to for everybody. Like you said, when you're up late at night and you're watching something, you might turn on Disney Plus and say, well, what's good? But then you find that unless you want to go back and watch some of these old TV shows or old movies, you're probably not revisiting.
Yeah.
Where Netflix is giving you that new stuff every week. So it's tough. So right now, yes, I totally agree with you. It could be considered second tier. It'll be interesting to see once they start getting all these new Star Wars and Marvel stuff and these Disney, platform original movies like Artemis Fowl and stuff like that. If people are going to gravitate more towards it.
Yeah, it's funny because honestly, I could be wrong here, but I think the approach of Disney Plus ultimately was they were comfortable being second tier. Like they've said often that they are not actually trying to go after Netflix the way that they came in at their price point, all sorts of different. This was spoken about a lot by Iger and different people at Disney. Now I don't know how much I actually buy into that. I think that the long-term plan is to take a chunk of the market from Netflix, but it's almost like they were comfortable with that and they wanted Disney to exist in the digital streaming space as that grows and as that market grows. They just wanted that piece of it, and they're very comfortable in sort of being second tier to Disney because there's some things sort of ingrained in Disney that I think prevent it from being able to be as good as Netflix at this. I mean, number one, Netflix can run the gamut of different kind of things, but also different kinds of audiences, right? So, if you're an anime fan, your Netflix, when you scroll through and when you're like on Netflix, is going to throw all kinds of crazy anime at you, show you all these different animes. They're actively developing animes. They're buying licenses, doing Netflix versions of old animes, all these different things, right? If you like reality TV, they have that, and their UI is really brilliant in a way where it's a lot like YouTube where it'll recommend stuff based on your watch history. If you like racy stuff, if you like creepy murder documentaries, all these different things, it's like the pool of content that they have is able to create sort of that YouTube effect where your homepage looks catered to you. I don't think Disney can do that because Disney's always going to do Disney stuff on that platform. It's always going to be on brand for Disney. Mm-hmm. And so that actually restricts the ability for that content to manage all of these different kinds of fans. Would you agree with that, or do you feel like there's something in there to push back against?
I agree for the most part, but what I'll say is I do think Disney Plus seems to be more of the platform for like one thing at a time.
Yeah.
And versus Netflix, which shoves lots of different things at you because they are literally trying to get all sorts of different ages and interest all at one time. It seems like the plan that Disney is going for is if you are a fan of this is what we have for you right now. We don't, if you have to come back later, that's fine, but this is what we have for you right now. And they hope that Netflix plan is obviously they have like all stuff from like Too Hot to Handle to Extraction and then everything in between. Like they have the Waco show, like they have all this new stuff that they keep having out. So they don't have a core audience. Disney, well, I mean, a core audience as far as like one singular thing that they like.
Sure.
Disney is unique upon its own thing where if you are a Disney fan, you generally like all the Disney stuff, whatever they're putting out. So for them, if they only have one show at a time, that seems good enough for them because they know, okay, if you're locked in for new Disney content, we have you for 2 months for The Mandalorian.
Yep.
And then if we follow that up the next 2 months with a Marvel show, then we have you for another 2 months. And then we release a Pixar movie the following month. So now we have you for 5 months in a row. And then you rinse and repeat and you keep doing that. And all of a sudden you've signed up for Disney Plus for a full year. So in their minds, it's not the numbers game of how much they're throwing out there. It's, do they have the content that makes you stick around for 2 months? And then is there something else that just one show, that's all it takes is one show for you to really be interested in, and you're giving that money. Because whether you watch 5 shows at once or you watch literally one show on the service, if you're paying that $10 a month, you're locked in. And I think that seems to be what they're doing.
Yeah. It almost feels like to me the Disney Plus is access to the Disney vault. It's not.
Right.
It's almost not even a streaming service. Do you know what I mean? Like it's. I thought about this. I wrote this down because I found it so interesting. Every Disney movie that comes out from now till the end of time is technically Disney Plus content because it will end up on Disney Plus.
Yes.
And that's such a wild thing to think about. But I want to get into specifically about Mandalorian and original Disney Plus content because right now it's library and it's access to the vault. The Mandalorian is the first example of content made specifically for that service that uses one of the big Disney IPs that they like to leverage, right? And so this interests me on a number of different levels. The one place I wanted to take this right away is, do you think, given how successful The Mandalorian was, that the actors involved in that show may want to potentially renegotiate their contracts and might think about the environment in which they signed those contracts and start to evaluate the future value of the show, and they might think that they got a raw end of the deal. Do you see where my head is going with that?
Yes, I see where your head is going. I don't know that I would go as cynical that they think that they got a raw deal, because they signed up. It's a big negotiation. It's all laid out on the table. Would I be surprised if maybe they wanted to renegotiate? No, I wouldn't be surprised. It brings up a very interesting point though that's been in the news over the last 24 hours. Is Trolls World Tour has come back up because Justin Timberlake and Anna Kendrick and their representation seem to have been a little bit upset with the fact that they were kind of left out of the dark, that Trolls World Tour was going to straight to VOD, not necessarily because of, Universal versus theaters, but because actors get back end points.
Sure. And
when they negotiated their contract, it was to get back end points of theatrical box office grosses. So that they had to go, they're going back in and they're, I think it's getting a little blown out of proportion, but according to the article, they're going back in and they're kind of renegotiating for points on the back end of what a streaming thing is. And that's going to be an interesting thing going forward with actors, like you said, and negotiating their value for streaming, because right now we don't really know numbers of streaming. That's like the biggest mystery out of all this. We really don't know what it is, and we only know what they tell us.
Right.
It's not like we go to Box Office Mojo and now we're looking at streaming numbers and what that equates to dollars, especially because it's a little bit more complicated than just straight up how many tickets are sold. So it is going to be very interesting how actors handle it. And it's going to affect budgets and everything, because they're going to have to figure out what is their worth on a show that, at this point, Disney Plus, almost 55 million people. So you got to assume, almost probably at least probably 50 million of those are watching The Mandalorian. I mean, that's what they're signing up for. So it's crazy to think about.
Yeah, it's so bizarre. I was just thinking about like the fact that like if it has a television or if it has a movie studio doing it, like for instance, the most interesting aspect to me is really the Marvel stuff. A lot of people are holding their breath waiting for what Marvel's going to do with the Disney Plus shows. Those are running through Marvel Studios. They're not just running through a movie studio. They're running through one of the most successful movie studios of all time. A studio that has the almost an unmatched pedigree, especially when you juxtapose it against the amount of time that studio has existed. It has existed for less than 20 years. You know what I mean? So
Sure.
it has that level of a studio behind it. So if it has a Hollywood studio level production, if it has a Hollywood studio budget, and the actors are not getting paid Hollywood studio pay, don't you think that's going to become an issue? I think about John Boyega's comments where he says, "You're not going to Disney Plus me." The indication there is that from the actor's perspective, it's less valuable. You get paid less. It's not good. But is that even true?
Yeah, I don't know that that's true. I think they're going to be very compensated. I mean, I think as this thing grows, look, man, theaters are in trouble. I'm sorry, theaters are in trouble, and I know we all love the theater going experience, and I don't ever want it to go away completely. But at one time, seeing stage shows was the thing to do, and that has now turned into a very expensive, you go once in a while kind of experience. I think that eventually, I'm not saying in the next 5 years, but I think in the next 20 years, movie theaters are going to go the way of like Broadway shows and stage shows, where if you want that premium experience, you're going to be paying a premium price. Otherwise, it's all going to be on one of these streaming services.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting, man. I think that I think that we're at the cusp of a huge change, right? A huge shift in digital, and it's just really weird watching the old world and the new world meet. Let me ask you this: do you think there's a hypothetical place or a time period that we will get to where actors actually want to do a streaming show, that they would actually prefer to do a streaming show? And the reason I ask this is because I think the shooting for a film is potentially more intense than the shooting for a streaming show. And I also think that it's possible that there's actually, for the craft of an actor, a better chance to showcase their stuff, build a relationship with a fan base with a streaming show. So could you actually see a situation in which actors might prefer to have their stuff on Disney Plus or on a streaming platform? What do you think about that?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's sooner than you think. I think with these Star Wars shows coming out, the success of The Mandalorian, and you see, these Amazon Prime shows like with John Krasinski. He's a huge star doing Amazon shows. You have the Apple TV Plus, where you have big name actors in there doing their shows. Absolutely. I think it used to be TV was looked down upon as the stepping stone, the lower quality. You really, as an actor, all you really wanted to do was be a big movie star. And I think the idea of what TV has changed so much, and it's blurred the lines of what TV is, and now these budgets and all these things that you can do, that saying that you're a star in a streaming service is no longer looked down in the industry as something negative. I mean, I know nobody really cares about awards per se, but the people in the industry care about these awards. So when the Emmys are flooded with streaming services and big name actors winning and or for streaming services, that changes the game. And look at the directors that the Mandalorian is getting. I mean, these are top quality directors in the business. So not only are big name directors now working on all these streaming stuff, big name actors want to work with big name directors. So where the directors go, the big name actors go, and I think it's coming sooner. Like you said, the shift is coming.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me, man. Like, I'm just really interested in it because I think that there's such an opportunity, man. You're right. I mean, a lot of these examples are already really, really great. I would really wonder. I want to see an example of somebody's career that like really, really takes off from streaming. You know, and then like the question would be like, okay, so what does that even mean? Like, does that mean they get more feature work? Does that mean that they get bigger contracts next time, or does it even matter? Like, is it just more streaming stuff? You know what I mean? Like, if you look at Netflix, they use a lot of the same actors. They use a lot of like the same little studios and production studios that they outsource stuff to. So you'll see a lot of the same people like pop up in different Netflix stuff, which I find kind of funny. But yeah, it's gonna be really interesting to see. I'm really looking forward to the day that John Boyega potentially changes his tune on that. You know what I mean? That
I
would,
think he will
yeah,
one
I
day.
think I think he
It may
will
not
too.
be Disney Plus, but it'll be somewhere.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. This is another kind of extension of this question. Do you think it's possible we'll see a day, and when? What time do you think this would take place in? That studios actually start to spend more money on projects for streaming than they do for theatrical release. What do you think about that?
Ooh, that's a loaded question, I think, because if what I feel like is going to happen will happen where you're really only going to get those large, big, giant blockbusters in theaters, I don't know that that's ever gonna happen. It's tough, man, because you take a look at something like Game of Thrones, which has the money and the budget of to compare to pretty much any theatrical experience. I guess it would have to be something on that grandest scale. I mean, hell, when the Lord of the Rings show comes out, that's nearly going to match anything that could be in theaters. So I guess it depends on. I don't, as an overall whole, will it always take over? No, but will we see comparable? Yeah, I think we will. I think this new Lord of the Rings show is going to be a testament to that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think they spent $250 million just getting the license to make that show.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
technically one of the most expensive things, uh, ever produced. But I think if you look at what, like, for instance, the DC Justice League movie is, I think they literally spent upwards of $400 million on production, not to mention advertising, on production of that film. $400 million. So you think about that $400 million chunk of money and how far that can stretch you with streaming. I mean, I could see a scenario in which studios start to think, especially as box office numbers go down, look, all of this could have been accelerated, because of the situation in the world, right? So the
Sure.
delays and everything, and then sort of the new normal that we might get out of this might have accelerated all of this stuff. That's why some future projections on certain companies is actually still really strong, even though we're almost certainly headed into a recession, pseudo depression, right?
Right.
That for some companies, the value has already gone up. It's accelerated a move in digital already. So it's a really interesting question. The last big thing I want to go over with you, and then we'll get into Q&A, and then we'll send everybody over to Trinity Stream. There was a thing I heard that really rocked my world when it came to the Obi-Wan series. There was this potential idea being floated around to do something on streaming that would then lead right into a theatrical experience. That essentially the plan was to have the same team, director, writer, everybody, working on a two-part dealie. One is on Disney Plus, and the other is in the theater. This is an extension of what Marvel's already trying to do with their shows that lead into the movies. But what do you think of that, good sir? Doing something on Disney Plus that is literally directly tied to a theatrical experience. What do you think about that?
Well, you're going to get a lot more subscribers doing that. That's for sure. Yeah, I look as somebody who is a fan of Star Wars as a general whole, one who wants to see this Obi-Wan show with Deborah Chow. I'm going to be watching it on Disney Plus. So for me, it's a no-brainer. It's very funny. It reminds me of when Kevin Feige, I guess it was maybe a year ago, so maybe a year and change, where he was like, "Yeah, you're gonna have to watch some of these Disney Plus shows to really get the MCU stuff." And I think a lot of us, rightfully so, was like, "Well, he probably doesn't mean like we have to watch everything. That there'll probably be some references, maybe some loose connections, but they can't possibly expect people to, or if they really want to follow." To watch the Disney Plus stuff. And the more that keeps coming out, the more I feel like no, he was serious. Like if you want to be ingrained in the MCU and you want to understand what's happening, like you have to watch everything. So with that mindset of the MCU, I'm totally not surprised that they would do something like that with Star Wars to kind of get people to be together. And for me, I can only speak for me. I would love it. I would love a show that leads into something else. I think that would be awesome. I would imagine a lot of people might not like it because they don't want to be tied down to watching a TV show. If you just like going to the theater and watching a movie, you might just want that. You don't want to have to how people like, I don't want to read a book in order to know what's happening, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I get that. But for me personally, I think that would be great. The more content, if it's with the same team, and if I love the show, then that would be awesome.
Yeah, no, dude, check this out. This is how crazy I think it's eventually going to get. I actually think we'll get to a point where those type of things are needed to get people into the theater. I believe it or not, I think right now the framework that people would view that from is, oh, that's a great way, like kind of what you said, that's a great way to get subscribers on Disney Plus. I think that will literally flip, and you will see a scenario in which the whole idea there is to actually get people into the theater. Because I think the theater experience is like going to sort of dwindle out in the next 5 to 10 years, and everything's just going to be digital. You know what I mean? And so I think that it's going to actually, what might be considered a slap to the face to the film industry might actually serve the film industry in the long term. What do you think about that crazy idea?
Yeah, I don't think that's crazy at all. I mean, literally, we've talked for about 15 minutes about how the theater going experience may be 1 foot out the door. So it could be did like in just let's talk Obi-Wan in just isolated scenario. You put a very decent budget into an Obi-Wan show, get people hyped and ramped for that, and then you ramp up the budget for a movie so you can make more because you spend more, you make more if it's good, and double dip there. Yeah, I think you're onto something.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff. So now let's shift into Q&A, folks. But before we shift into Q&A, I want to drop a little link, and I want to talk about something that one of the executive producers deeply cares about, okay? And so I wanted to talk about, obviously the state of the world is pretty crazy and ridiculous right now, but there were already a lot of problems facing certain parts of the world. Africa is one of those problems, or places. And Africa was dealing with a lot of different things, and then this crazy stuff happened, okay? And so just to try to use the small amount of influence that we have here, if anybody has any kind of extra cash and they can support this group, which we have vetted, is a Frontier Force Christian Ministries in Africa doing great work over there. And honestly, they're hurting. And some of the people, I don't think it's that hard to imagine that for certain people in certain places that were already dealing with stuff, the effects of what's going on in the world right now are all the more seriousness are all the more serious. Wow, I'm really fumbling this. I apologize. So I'm going to put this link in here. And if you've got any amount of loot lying around, maybe things are good for you right now somehow. Maybe you have some things going well. Consider checking out this link donating what you can to this good cause and helping the ministries over in Africa battle some of the things they were already battling, and be able to perhaps help out with what's going on with COVID as well. So I'm going to drop that link in there. No pressure if you don't have any loot. As always, it's not a big deal to us. But if you do have some loot lying around, you want to help a good cause, support something that means a lot to some of the Den of Nerds family, I'm going to drop that link in there, and I'm going to suggest that skip a super chat, skip something you were going to do for us, and go support that cause. And, of course, get your questions in, folks, because it's Q&A time, baby. It's Q&A time. Adam, don't you think it's crazy that every Disney movie for the rest of time is technically Den of Nerds content now? Don't you think that's kind of wild?
That's great.
I think it's, yeah.
And some amount of stuff to talk about.
I know. Well, yeah. I mean, once these things start rocking out, man, we are going to have so much content to be making. It's actually going to be a little bit bizarre, man. Like,
what's good for you though is you're keeping the den strong until all that stuff. It'd be worse if like no one was hanging around talking. So it's only going to get better.
True, 100%, man. Yeah, it's look, we're having fun. I actually was thinking the other day too, and I'll just kind of blurb about this as we're waiting for some questions to come into the chat. I was thinking about what I want to do with the content a little bit, because I think that in some ways we're getting bored of just, hey, here's this thing that's happening and the breakdown of it. And I want to get a little bit more like sort of speculative and sort of bring the juice in the content. And so, for instance, today, rather than just make a video about how Ironheart is being developed, I literally want to frame the video as, like, will fans embrace Ironheart in the MCU and still talk about the scoop, but really the content is about trying to break down in a concise way why people have a problem with this character, why some people hand wave it away, and why it's going to probably be okay in the MCU. Do you know what I mean? So, I mean, I feel like we've been doing great with the content and bringing people in, but I think especially now at a time where I think people are just not going to really be invested. They're not really looking to kill time the same way. Like, this is a very interesting thing that I've noticed is you would think that YouTube consumption and YouTube channels would be doing really well in this time period, but it's so affected people's routines, including the way they consume YouTube content, that it's almost like a whole different game right now. And so I'm sort of trying to wrap my head around it. I've been looking at my back end numbers and I'm like, damn, some of these Star Wars videos are doing the best out of everything right now. And they're not necessarily tied to super relevant news. They're just things that maybe Star Wars fans would want to watch at a time period like this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's so much. It's almost content overload. Like, you ever have the feeling where like you have so much to do and then you end up doing nothing because it's just too much. And you like, I was joking about it with some other people the other day that like you literally, like, sometimes if you just sit down for Netflix to watch something, there's so much content that you literally could spend an hour just browsing, and that is the show that you're watching. You're watching a browser for an hour. Like, there's so much out there. And YouTube, man, that since everyone's been home, everyone's jumping on YouTube now, which is great because everyone's able to give their opinion, but there's just so much out there. I don't know. It's so nuts.
It's almost like I think I've seen that effect happen like pretty quick on people where, and this is another thing, it's going to be really weird to see how people's viewing behaviors are changed after this, because on the one hand, you're bringing in a bunch of late adapters, but then on the other hand, it's like you've got people now that their consumption habits are going to be totally different. And the way they value content might be totally different too. So it's just really interesting. It's an interesting time. But here, we'll take this question from Mike Porter. He asks, will Warner Brothers ever do anything with Dr. Fate? Adam, I watched Munich before your bracket show last night. Do you think the actor Jeffrey Rush is underrated? So you want to address the Jeffrey Rush question?
Sure. Jeffrey Rush, is he overrated or underrated? I think he is appropriately rated. I think he's awesome. I do think that he doesn't necessarily do enough big work for people to appreciate him, though. That's for sure. I mean, I think probably most people know him from the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, just because that's the biggest thing. But like, one of my favorite roles that he did was in Shakespeare in Love. Now I know a lot of people give that movie hate. I don't. I really enjoy that movie. I know people are angry because it won over Saving Private Ryan in the year for the Oscars.
Yeah.
I get that, but he's great. The King, he was amazing in the King's Speech. So I don't necessarily know that he's underrated. I just think that because I think people who know his work like his work. But I definitely agree that he's under discussed for sure.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. And then as far as the Dr. Fate thing, man, I'd love for them to do some Dr. Fate. I'll say this as far as DC. I watched the Justice League Dark Apocalypse War yesterday, and holy crap, is it awesome? And it's like the exact opposite of everything that they're doing in the live action DC universe. And it's such a shining example of like what DC can do and how they can do things correctly. And man, I thought Justice League Dark Apocalypse War was, I mean, if you haven't seen it, $20 is kind of it's a chunk of change right now to check out an animated movie. I will tell you right now, for my part, it is better than anything DC has put out, including Wonder Woman, maybe not Man of Steel, but like in the last 4 or 5 years, this animated movie is better than anything DC has done live action, and you get a little bit of flavor for all of the fans. That's what I love about it. Like you get some awesome Harley Quinn stuff in this thing, which I didn't expect. You get some Suicide Squad stuff, man. It's like you get the gamut of crazy, awesome DC stuff in that movie. So I highly recommend that. But Dr. Fate, they could potentially use Dr. Fate in really interesting ways in DC live action. They just have to come up with a plan. I think until they have something stable over there, it's not even necessarily worth speculating about how Dr. Fate could play into it. You know what I mean? That's just my opinion, though. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
I haven't seen it yet. It's on my list, but I am a huge fan of the DC animated movies. I think they do a great job. One of my recent favorites is the Son of Batman. What they're doing with Damian Wayne in these, I love it. I love how they're treating the character. They do such stellar work. I'm very interested about this upcoming one, the Superman Man of Tomorrow.
Yeah,
everything that's coming out with that. I'm kind of digging.
Yeah, that's one of the best Superman stories of all time.
Yeah.
Actually written by Alan Moore. I have that in my room over there. And dude, yeah, whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow is just it's a brilliant Superman story. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that as well.
Yeah,
it's good stuff. Good stuff all around. Let's see here. Do you think the Pirates reboot would play better as a series on Doo Plus? What do you think?
I don't know why it would make a difference, to be honest. I think, I mean, at this point, that's always a popular question that comes up. Could it be a better TV show? I think generally the answer is always going to be yes, but that doesn't mean it's going to make a bad movie. So I don't know. I think with these pirate movies, they're too. I think they're too lighthearted to stretch out.
Yeah,
they're not very serious. So I think if you stretch it out to 8 episodes, it might get too repetitive, and just sort of it feels like the same thing. I think I'd be okay with a 2 hour or 2 plus and change hour of a Pirates movie versus watching every week. I don't know. That's probably how I feel about it.
I don't know, man. I don't know how much I value the Pirate franchise, to be honest with you. Like, I just don't. There have been some cool ones. I don't really even know the box office count of like the last couple. I assume they've been kind of on a steady decline. Is that correct?
They were on a decline there, but they were still making some really good movie, some really good money. So like the latest one was Dead Men Tells No Tale, right? So that made $795 million worldwide.
Damn.
On a $230 budget. So it still makes money. It didn't cross the $1 billion but it's still, you can't say that it wasn't successful.
Yeah, no, I mean that's definitely successful. That's like Venom, right? And then Venom was like, right, we're gonna do a whole universe now. So yeah, no, I get it. I can see why they'd be doing that. Let's see here. Let's scroll through and try to get some more good old questions. Probably just take one more, and then we'll send everybody over to Trinity's stream. Let's talk about Ironheart, but America Chavez as well. What are your opinions on her? She's also hated. Looks like a super chat came in that hasn't popped up for me exactly yet. So I'll wait to see what that is.
It's on the screen.
Okay, Josh and Adam, what are your favorite Star Wars novels? I could pass that to you. I can take that. I mean, do you read a lot of Star Wars novels, Adam?
I wasn't a big novel reader of Legends or
Josh
EU.
and Adam, what are your
I was
favorite
more of a
Star
comic
Wars
book
novels?
reader for the EU. So, but I did one of my favorite current novels that have come out with the Disney stuff. I love the Tarkin book.
Mm-hmm.
I flew through that book. I was hooked. I think that right now is my favorite book, novel wise. But I'm telling, if you want a good comic, go back and read the John Jackson Miller run of Knights of the Old Republic, the comic version. It's if you really enjoyed the games, go read the comic run that he did. It's
with like
excellent.
Zesh and what's the young
Zane Carrick?
Zane, yeah.
Right? Yeah. So it's excellent. I love it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. John Jackson Miller, I had the honor of attending a comic book writing workshop that John Jackson Miller did at Star Wars Celebration and in Orlando like 4 years ago. It was awesome, man. It was awesome.
That's really cool.
Yeah, he's awesome. As far as my favorite novels, I talk about Lost Stars a lot. I really like that. I know Justin was reading that. Justin, if you're still in chat, let me know because I know you had said you weren't really digging it. I wonder if that's improved for you or not. Lords of the Sith.
I have it on my nightstand. I still have to read it. I'm not even joking. It's literally on my nightstand. I still have to like actually open it.
Yeah, so I love that book so much that I've been buying the manga adaptation of it. Like, I don't know if you guys can see that on screen, but like, dude, the manga adaptation, like, I'm a fan, dude. I'm a fan. I like those characters. I'm a sucker for romance. I like love stories. Sorry, guys, I do.
That's cool.
Yeah, romance is cool. It's you could still be a manly man and like romance. I'm not saying I am, but you can do it. I'd say Lords of the Sith is fantastic. Lords of the Sith has some of my favorite Vader Emperor stuff. It's really cool, and also it interweaves Ahsoka into it in an interesting way, where like Anakin is thinking of Ahsoka during it, and Palpatine is even sort of teasing him a little bit with Ahsoka stuff, which is not in a lot of canon stuff because it was sort of retroactively put into canon. Man, I tell you, I really liked Tarkin a lot. I thought Tarkin was great. Just his like come up and like coming of age story was very interesting, and there's some really cool Emperor stuff in that book as well, and it sort of solidifies like why someone like Vader would be subservient to someone like Tarkin. Like Tarkin was a big deal. The Thrawn stuff, I love the Thrawn stuff, but like I gotta be real. Like if you're not a big like Thrawn is literally Sherlock Holmes. Like he's Sherlock Holmes. So if you're not a fan of that kind of stuff, you might not like the new Thrawn stuff because there's a lot of moments in the Thrawn book where Thrawn is like, well, I knew this because of this and this because of this. And you're just like, oh, shit. Like, he does that. So it can be a little contrived at times, but I really like the new Thrawn stuff. Catalyst is surprisingly really good. But, it's funny, man. I think Plagueis is literally one of the best Star Wars novels ever written. It's unfortunately no longer canon. But Plagueis is such a good book. I'd still recommend reading it over a lot of books that are out there. James Luceno is really, really good. And I'm looking forward to the High Republic stuff, man. I think Charles Soule is a great writer, a great storyteller, so I'm really looking forward to The Light of the Jedi. I want Avar Kriss to turn dark side because, come on, man, Space Karen, isn't she dark side? If you imagine Karen, the memeable, Karen,
right.
I need to speak to the manager, Karen. Sure. Isn't that a little dark side? If you're doing Space Karen, Avar Kriss, I say lean into it. Have her go dark side. I think that's really cool.
That'd be a nice twist. Sure, I'm down.
Yeah, man. But make Space Karen, go to the dark side. I think that would be a brilliant way and maybe satisfy a lot of different fans.
Right.
Let's see here. Is Trinité live? Is our good friend Trinité streaming?
I do believe so.
All right, cool. Let's drop that link in for everybody. Send them on over here. I appreciate you
Great.
being on and talking about this, man. I think the whole Disney Plus thing is a very interesting topic, and I just know that with your interests, that it would be an interesting combo.
Yeah, man, I love coming on. I'm glad that we're doing some regular stuff here, and I definitely want to. I'll try to talk less next time because I know people hate. I've seen the comments. People hate that I talk too much and they want to get to the Q&A faster. So I'll be sure to be a little bit more concise for you. For sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, we can work on it for sure. That's something that I think I need to work on too. Because look, the bottom line is when we're especially if I'm having a good conversation, I'd rather just keep talking. I do appreciate that the fans want to get into Q&A, and they're a very important part of the show as well. So maybe we'll just work on it and try to, be a little more concise, or maybe just call it after a half hour and table it for now. You know what I mean, or something like that. So we can figure something like that out. I'm not that worried about it, but it's a work in progress.
As we're waiting for Trinity, I do got to ask you a question because this was a huge topic on the Debate 8 show last night on my channel. We did Spielberg movies of the 2000s and the 90s and 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the final two came down to Jurassic Park and Schindler's List. Who would you vote? Which one would you vote for as the best movie of that time period between those two?
I still think I would give it to Jurassic Park. And the reason is because although Schindler's List is an absolutely incredible, like obviously a work of art, brilliant from the perspective of cinema, I think that what Jurassic Park did to movies and movie makers, like we were just watching that documentary the other day when Bryce Dallas Howard talks about how when she watched Jurassic Park for the first time, and like that just created the magic of filmmaking. I think it's a very similar thing to Star Wars, where like Star Wars had that kind of an effect, like true magic happened when people watched that stuff. I think Schindler's List is a beautiful introspective look at character studies, motivations, atrocities of our history as human beings. But what Spielberg did with Jurassic Park created magic that I think still permeates almost all movies today, So that would be my personal pick and my justification for it. But I could be swayed the other way. What about you? What do you think?
Oh no, so last night on the show, it came down to the final. I set the timer for the vote. I went on a literal epic rant on why Jurassic Park is one of the greatest movies of all time, and I didn't even notice, but the vote counter kept going up and up and up for Schindler's List as I'm like ranting about Jurassic Park.
Yep.
And the two guests that I had there were cracking up because I didn't even see it happening, and they're laughing their asses off. 70% of the people voted for Schindler's List over Jurassic Park, and I lost my mind. I was incensed, and I'm still shocked, and I feel like I got to get over it. But I'm glad you're on my side, for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
couldn't believe last night.
It's Jurassic Park, like it's like a culturally phenomenon, It's like that was that was just so big, dude. It's really hard to argue against that because like honestly, even though like okay, so how about this? Let's extend it this way. Who do you think had more of an impact on cinema, Spielberg or Kubrick?
Oh, that's a loaded question, Josh. That's not fair.
Yeah,
oh man.
I'll tell you what I think. I think it's still Spielberg. Because as much as I personally have been more affected by Kubrick, and Kubrick's more of like my style, you know what I mean? I still think that Spielberg's movies reached more people, created more magical experiences in cinema, and were, a little bit more digestible maybe for mass audiences. And so even though I would tell you straight up that Kubrick is the best filmmaker that ever lived,
right?
I would still argue that Spielberg had more of an impact on the actual film industry and as cinema, like as a whole. Does that make sense?
It does. I think I would. Here's how I'll quantify my answer. Spielberg has had more of an influence on me, but I know that Kubrick had a huge influence on Spielberg. So sort of the transitive property there. But so for me, it's Spielberg. Spielberg made me want to go to film school. So he will always be the biggest influence on my life. But there are people in there saying without Kubrick, we're not getting all sorts of other people. So that's a hard question, man. That's
Yeah.
anything else an easier answer.
Well, it's like, to me, it's like you can ask a similar question that sort of it applies to comic books as well, where it's like, who had more of an impact on comic books, like the people like Alan Moore or Grant Morrison, or was it people like believe it or not, somebody like Seth MacFarlane or Rob Liefeld or some of the Image guys, right? Where it's like you're talking about
Right.
some master craftsmen that have done some really cerebral stuff and really pushed the medium forward. But as far as who had the overall pick, some of the more mass appeal guys, like even maybe Bendis maybe you could argue has been more influential and has had a bigger impact on comics than Alan Moore, which is crazy because Alan Moore gave us Watchmen. You know what I mean? So it's like, but they're sort of different arguments. Alan Moore has definitely affected me more, but I think that it's potentially not that way for a lot of other people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
We're losing subscribers left and right. We shouldn't have started this discussion.
Well,
Everyone's so pissed.
We were waiting for Trinity. He was taking his sweet time getting his stream up.
Trinity, you just exposed me as a normie, and now everyone hates me. So thanks a lot. But guys, we put the link down in there. Go over to Trinity's stream. I hope to see you guys over there. Again, thank you, Adam, for being here. Let's talk soon, man. I'd love to come over on your channel and do some stuff, and we'll have you on again next week as well.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yep, absolutely, guys. Okay, we're going to call it there. Thanks, everybody, except for Chet today. As I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and a nerdy day, and we will see you in the next video. Uh-oh. Wait, what? Chet's the one that normally does this. Are we still live? What? Uh-oh. Nobody pay attention to the man behind the curtain. No, nobody. Don't worry about it, guys. I'll see you on Trinity stream. No big deal.